What's going on, Warriors? It's Coach Jay. We're gonna dive right into this one. I've been getting a lot of questions. Why is my blood sugar level going high as a type 1 diabetic when I'm training? And I'm gonna break down why that is and share with you guys what you guys can do to avoid that from happening. If it's your first time on the channel, I help diabetics to manage your blood sugar level, burn stubborn body fat, and build lean muscle. So if that sounds good, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, hit that like button. It helps me get these videos out there. As you guys know too, I also do supplement reviews to dump in some supplements to help you guys in terms of building muscle, burning fat, and just getting overall results. All right, let's just dive into this one. I got you guys. So one thing we have to understand is how the hormones work, how our hormones work in our body when we're giving ourselves an insulin injection. Now what you have to understand is if you're typically going into a workout and you're low carb, because typically people that are going high with their blood sugars are either low carb or they are fasted. Now it seems counterintuitive because what your body does from an evolutionary standpoint when you are low on carbs or you're fasted, the first response of your body is to send a little bit of a sympathetic nervous response that increases things like growth hormone, it increases things like cortisol, it increases things like glucagon, and all of these hormones are responsible for shuttling sugar into your blood, right? Because it wants to make you alert. It wants you from an evolutionary standpoint to say, hey, I'm awake, I'm alert, let me go out, let me find food, let me go out, let me hunt, let me get the energy to do that, since your body doesn't necessarily have that glucose on board, right? And now when this happens, that causes your blood sugar level to go high. So now we have to think about the opposite impact. Now what happens when we give ourselves an insulin injection? Insulin suppresses things like growth hormone. It suppresses cortisol. It suppresses more glucagon in the body because you're more in the rest and digest part of the parasympathetic nervous system. So that alone will shuttle glucose into your body's cells, but it'll also turn off that glucagon response that's causing your liver to turn stored glycogen into glucose and shuttling it into your blood, causing your blood sugar level to go high. So again, how we can get ahead of that is have a carbohydrate-rich meal, maybe an hour to 2 hours before you are training, and give yourself an insulin injection before you do that. What that's gonna help you to do is shuttle glucose into your body's cells and shut off that glucagon response that's causing your blood sugar to go high, all right? Now, the other thing you have to take into account though is that you might still give yourself an insulin injection prior to training and still feel like you're going a little bit high. The reason why that might happen with some people is because, again, our bodies as type 1 diabetics also don't produce the hormone called amylin. We don't produce amylin, and amylin is also responsible for lowering that glucagon response, right? Now, if amylin is not present but we still have insulin, we can still lower the glucagon response, but in some people, you might find that you're still going a little bit high. In that case, you do have to get ahead of it and maybe adjust the insulin you give yourself for how high you notice you typically go when you're training. This is one way that you guys can balance your blood sugar if the concern is going high while you are training. This also goes into understanding your own body's patterns. When you understand your own body's patterns in terms of when you normally go high and how high you normally go, you can adjust your insulin based on that number to keep your blood sugars more stable as well. Just some tips to help you guys keep your blood sugars a little bit more stable. I was actually talking to one of my guys, forget his name, but one of my YouTube friends, the Adaptable Diabetic, but he left an amazing comment on my feed, and it got me thinking. It got me thinking that this is true and this does happen, but why is this happening? And when we piece it together, this is the result of the hormones that are in your body, and I thought it was important to share that with you guys. The other thing I want to talk to you guys about is what's called the Somo-Gi effect. Now the Somo-Gi effect, it's what happens between the hours of about 3 a.m. in the morning to morning time when you wake up, maybe around 8 a.m., right? Now what the Somo-Gi effect says is that if you have a little bit of a low blood sugar situation going on, it doesn't even have to be a lot, but your body's starting to dip a little bit low when it comes to your blood sugar level. Now what ends up happening is your body's gonna release glucagon, it's gonna release some cortisol, but especially that hormone glucagon is gonna release the stored sugar from your liver in the form of glycogen, and gonna convert it back to glucose and flood your body with more sugar in order to boost that blood sugar back up. Now what ends up happening is because of this effect over here, you're gonna, so a lot of times with diabetes, the body can overcompensate with your hormones and bring that blood sugar up a lot higher down the road in the morning, right? So that you have that effect of a little bit of a low blood sugar, the blood sugar dipping down low, body sends off all those hormonal signals like glucagon, causes the blood sugar to spike back up. Now this is important because I believe that Somo-Gi effect can also be responsible for high blood sugar levels when you're training. Think about it like this. If you're someone who's low carb and or you're fasted, what ends up happening is you're sending that same signal to the body that says, okay, the blood sugar is dipping down low because now we're training and the body needs to use glucose. So now it's going to a little bit of a shock situation. It's going to flood your body with glucagon while you're training and cause that blood sugar level to go high while you're training, similar to that Somo-Gi effect, right? So these are just other ways or other tips or other ways that are reasons why your blood sugar level is going high when you're training. Now again, you guys can get ahead of this by understanding your body's own patterns. For example, if you decide you do not want to give yourself an insulin injection, you just don't want, or you decide you don't want to. Now one way to look at this, and the reason why it is important to have carbohydrates, is think about it like this. Think about it like this. When your body is ingesting, if you find that your blood sugar is already going to go high while you're training, you've already given yourself an insulin shot, meaning that insulin shot is already suppressing the release of things like growth hormone. It's suppressing the release of things like glucagon and cortisol. And so if you're already doing it, if you already have to do it as a result of being fasted or not eating enough carbohydrates, you're already triggering the opposition hormones when you give yourself that insulin shot for the most part. So you might as well have a glucose or carbohydrate rich meal anyway. That's going to help you to preserve more muscle because your body's going to use more of that glycolytic system to train. It's going to help you to preserve more muscle while you're training, build more muscle, stop that catabolic process, which again, you should be having carbs within 45 minutes, so carbohydrate-rich, fat-rich, protein-rich meal within 45 minutes after you're done training to an hour and a half, I'd say at most. Even if you just have a quick granola bar to tide you over, a protein bar to tide you over before you have your dinner or your bigger meal of carbohydrate, protein, and fat-rich meal an hour and a half after, then that's gonna be something extremely beneficial because then you get the insulin, your carbs in, you start replacing that glucose, you stop that catabolic process, you stop the release of glucagon, and then over time, glucagon can take amino acids and break them down, which is muscle. We don't want that. Again, as diabetics, we want to preserve muscle. We want to build muscle. So these are just things that you guys can remember from your boy, Coach Jay, because you guys know I got you. And as diabetics, we know that there's not a lot of studies that are out there that really help us specifically hone in to the things that represent us.